Well, it wasn't a rumble in the jungle. It was more of a cluster mess in Cleveland. Let's get more on the presidential debate. Earlier this afternoon, I spoke with the columnist for the New York Post and the Daily Telegraph, Miranda Devine. Miranda Devine, thanks for joining us. My God, that was ugly.
It was really chaos. And I mean, look, I felt during it that I wish that President Trump would just let Joe Biden talk and hang himself, because we know how mixed up he gets when he has without a teleprompter, and he loses his train of thought and he gets all his numbers jumbled up. But it was almost, Donald Trump interrupting all the time was getting him off the hook.
They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
but
and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
Now, I am
and
the
they're going to dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
He sort of pulled through it okay, and I think the bar had been set so low for him that most of the media will judge it as a win for him.
I think you're right. This is my assessment. We're all expecting him to actually lose the plot. The fact that it was chaotic, but he actually left the stage, I suppose, upright without any major disasters. There were some stuff-ups I'll come to in a moment, but obviously Donald Trump was going so hard and so aggressive and interrupting that he wanted Joe Biden to completely lose it. He kind of lost his temper a bit at one stage, told Donald Trump to shut up. But in the end, he didn't really take the bait from Donald Trump. And you're probably right. Donald Trump might have been just better to let him talk and give him enough rope.
Look, I think that was the strategy. I spoke to Rudy Giuliani just about half an hour before the debate started, and he's been with the president all day. The president's had just a small group around him, mainly his campaign staff, and his entire family came. What Rudy Giuliani was saying was that Joe Biden loses his temper. Part of this cognitive decline that everyone has been observing in him, but which he didn't really show much of tonight, has been this sparked temper that he just doesn't have a filter, can't control it. And Rudy Giuliani has known Joe Biden for 25, 30 years, and he says he's very sensitive about his intelligence, and that's why he's lied about coming top of his class and having extra degrees he doesn't have when he really came bottom of the class, etc. So I think that it was pretty obvious that several times during the evening that Donald Trump was needling him and trying to goad him into losing his temper. And Joe Biden, I guess to his credit, managed to hold it together. And so I guess that was a win for Joe Biden. But in the end, I mean, they both came across as awful as each other. What Joe Biden, who's supposed to be the arbiter of decency and civility, was saying the most appalling ad hominem, attacks on Donald Trump.
Everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
He called him a liar several times, a fool, a clown. You can't believe anything he says. He told him to shut up, man. I don't know how many times he said that. It was schoolyard stuff. I mean, he made Donald Trump, apart from all his interruptions, seem quite gentlemanly by contrast. So it was odd. And look, I think we can't also ignore the sort of elephant in the room, which was Chris Wallace, who is, veers left. Everybody knows that he's one of the most centre-left, I guess you'd call him, people on Fox News. Lovely man, good journalist, but he certainly did seem to be favouring Joe Biden during the debate and not pressing him on questions as he was the president. There were just questions that he just wouldn't answer and got away with it. Whereas with Donald Trump, some of the questions were angled very negatively towards him. I mean, the tax question, which I thought he answered quite well, which is, who in their right mind doesn't utilise legally the tax law? And, oh, by the way, it was Joe Biden, Mr. Delaware, who inserted all these loopholes for corporates in the tax code.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You see all this fact-checking of Donald Trump by the media, fair enough, but it's not turned the other way. A classic in the debate then tonight was Joe Biden saying that his son Hunter was not discharged dishonourably from the US military. Well, the technical term, I think, was an administrative discharge, but he was caught with drugs and had to leave the military. I mean, that's the point, isn't it?
That is the point. I did think Joe Biden turned that around quite well. He looked into the camera and he said, yes, my son had a drug problem. He's got over it. I'm really proud of it. I thought that was quite good. But on the real point about Hunter Biden, which is, and Donald Trump hammered this point several times, and I think it got through, and as it should have, because it's been ignored by, the establishment media, the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, etc., which is that Hunter Biden, it's documented that he received $3.5 million from the wife of the former Moscow mayor, who's a friend of Vladimir Putin. So that's real Russia collusion. There is real evidence, documentary evidence of it, and there's a curious lack of curiosity about it. Chris Wallace just wanted to sweep right past that. He said, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about climate change, which is, again, putting the ball back into Biden's court. In the end, I don't think any of it matters. I think they both were down in the gutter with each other. It was just chaos. It was unseemly and, not particularly presidential if you're watching a movie, but each side would have appealed to their own base. And the fact is that more than 90% of America has already made up their mind. I think that people tuned in to watch it for one reason only, and that is because Joe Biden, the whole story of Joe Biden's cognitive decline has really been the drumbeat behind the campaign, because he's been hiding in his basement, and the few times that he does emerge, he makes a gaffe a minute, and his campaign has been really keeping him clamped down. He just talks into teleprompters. So everybody wanted to see if he was going to collapse in a heap tonight, and he didn't. So just by that, he's won.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. He's made a few stumbles along the way. He seems to think Antifa is not an organisation, it's just an idea. He also seems a bit confused as to whether he supports the Green New Deal or not.
Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't.
But I think the important policy point is he's unashamedly saying he's going to increase corporate taxes. He's the big tax candidate.
Yes, that's very interesting. You picked up on the three important points, I think, and that Donald Trump picked up on at the time. He said, for instance, with the Green New Deal, when Joe Biden said, I'm not for the Green New Deal, which is ridiculous because when you actually look at his policy, it is basically the Green New Deal in a different clothing. But Donald Trump says, you've just lost the left there, you just lost the Bernie people, and just zeroing in on the fact that the Democratic Party is really a party at war with itself. That's why it has such a compromised candidate.
The other big issue, the coronavirus, a lot of toing and froing over that. Who won that debate?
Look, again, it's a draw. Joe Biden's ridiculous, blaming Donald Trump for every single death in America, 200,000 deaths, or as he said the other day, 200 million deaths. That would be, most of America. That just doesn't pass the sniff test. And that cynicism that you hear out on the ground, particularly in Pennsylvania, I think plays well for Donald Trump. They see the Democrats as deliberately trying to keep the economy shut down until the election in order to keep everyone miserable and scared and voting for Biden, whose entire campaign is about be scared of the China virus. Whereas Donald Trump is saying, look, a lot more people would have died if I hadn't closed the borders to China, and I think there's some merit in that. He did that January 31st. He did that before Scott Morrison did. I don't think Scott Morrison would have shut the borders, I think, a day or two later if it hadn't been for Donald Trump giving him the sort of excuse to do so.
Miranda, it was brutal, it was ugly, in some ways it was depressing, and a lot of people are saying that means they've put them off presidential elections. I disagree. I think it was such a compelling, though ugly, contest that people are going to be fascinated to see what happens in debates 2 and 3.
I think that the Democrats will probably say that they're not going to do the next 2 debates because the fact that Biden managed to skate through this, they'll chalk it up as a win for him. They won't risk the next 2, and he can turn around and say, Nancy Pelosi was right. this man, Donald Trump, is just so awful. Look what he did when I talked about my dead, soldier son, Beau. I'm not going to put up with that anymore. The American people needn't see that spectacle. It's unbecoming of a president. So no more debates. I'll bet you that happens.
Well, that's a big call. We shall see. Thanks so much for joining us, Miranda.
Thanks, Chris.
Miranda Devine there. Just imagine if the Democrats tried to pull out of the next two debates. We'll keep an eye on that one.